Dear sisters and brothers, dear Thai, Brother Phap Phu told us the other day that the only thing that he would be worried about would be if there wasn't change. And we've entered a new period in our tradition. And I'm wondering specifically from the monastics, but then also from our lay teachers, what changes are you aware of happening since Thai's stroke in the monastic community and in the lay community? What changes are you aware of starting since Thai's illness in the monastic community and in the lay community?
We can take maybe 6 questions first, and then we can try to answer them before we continue.
Dear brothers and sisters, I'm wondering if some of you might help us to understand ways that we can best support our monastic community and our lay Dharma teachers to help to strengthen our fourfold Sangha.
Dear respected teachers, dear Thai, out where in many places we are giving kudos for accomplishments. And so I would like to ask you to speak from your experience of what is this place of no trying, no try.
Dear Sangha, dear Thai, I was very struck by Thai's teaching about how mindfulness is not a tool, it's a path. And my question is around, as we take our practice out into the world, for example, into teaching and education, what should we be doing differently than we've been doing before to follow Thai's advice? How do we bring out and teach mindfulness as a path rather than as a tool? Thank you.
Also, we have a written question here. The monastic name usually start with the Phap for monk and Ngim for nun. Is there a reason for the change now? Like now is the sky and moon.
Can you repeat the question? This question's kind of like Eric's, but a little bit different. I was recently giving a talk at a conference on meditation about some research. One of the studies showed the benefits of walking meditation taught to people over 60. And afterwards I had a meeting with some people in this country, and they were very excited about this and said we should train workers to go out in all the provinces and teach all older people walking meditation. Can you come back and give a 3-day workshop, and then we'll send the people out? So I was very happy about the enthusiasm, but I also tried to say, walking meditation isn't like teaching how to do a chemistry equation. It's a little bit different. So I'm wondering about what your thoughts are on what kind of training or experience is needed before someone to go out and start teaching a practice.
Dear Sangha, do you have space for one more? I was very inspired by bringing mindfulness as an intention, like being aware of the actions, like what's the intention, what Sister Tay said yesterday, like what's the difference between just escape and rest. So I'm wondering, do you try to always maintain intention in all your actions in all your daily life, or is there just a bunch of stuff you also just have to get done and have to do? And should we be reevaluating all that stuff we just got to get done? Oh God. I don't know how to rephrase that. Do you hold an intention for all your daily activities? Hold aspiration or intention for all daily activities. What'd you say? Even the things you seem like you just have to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Joanne talked about fearlessness, and she talks about fearlessness a lot. And our teacher Ty is a wonderful example. Can you talk more about how to generate fearlessness in the face of things that we're afraid of?
As opposed to
So, dear Thầy, dear friends, I wonder whether you have any picking order for answering question? Maybe the one who received the lamb latest? John and I, we're going to receive at the same time. So we can pick question first. Well, maybe the question is why it used to be Pháp and Nghiêm, and now is sky and moon. Basically, if you're aware, we ordain like over 700 monastic. So at first, some of the elder brother sister actually didn't have Pháp and Nghiêm at the time, and it was added up later. That's why sometimes usually people refer to Sister Chân Đức or Sister Chân Không, but we don't say Chân Đức Nghiêm or Chân Không Nghiêm. So it was added up a little bit later. So that means ornament for Nghiêm for the sister and Pháp for Dharma. But then after about 400, we ran out of words. And also in the tradition of Thai is like to challenge us by changing all the time. Like you remember we learned the 5 mindfulness training, and we almost by heart, and then Thầy changed it, and the 14 mindfulness training, and then the 5 contemplation too. Every few years we keep changing. So lately now, the brother who ordained later are called Trời, we mean the sky, and the nuns who ordered later are called Trăng, we mean moon. And then he can go on for another few hundred names before we change again. So that was easy.
You're so good. Why don't you answer all of them?
We were ordained in the same Dharma transmission group, and he's been fun all along. Dear Thai, dear friends, first I'm going to say a little bit about number 4, because it looks like Joanne, they want you to talk about number 8. But first, I bring you good news from the outside world. Last week, I got to attend a forum in Oxford, England, for what's called social entrepreneurs, people doing great stuff all over the world. 1,000 people came to this conference from all over the globe. People ending human trafficking in the Philippines, reclaiming indigenous land rights in the Amazon, reclaiming the Amazonian rainforest from destruction, teaching sustainable fishing along the coasts all around where 2 billion people depend on fish. People doing HIV, very innovative HIV education and pregnancy prevention work. Riders for Health, where they get on motorcycles and take health care, immunizations and medicines to the villages, remote villages. Beautiful things people are doing. Environmental stuff, anti-racism work, eliminating poverty. And it was like a booster shot of optimism for me. So I just walked away thinking the world is in good hands. So I wanted to convey that to you. There's a lot of awful things we hear happening, but there are 2 million, officially 2 million listed NGOs around the world working on every human problem imaginable. Now, as Dennis mentioned the first night, one of the principles of the order of interbeing is appropriateness of the means. So I'm going to maybe go off the range a little bit here, but I feel like there are many ways to share mindfulness, to naturalize it to many situations, and still be true to the basics. Sometimes I think people, I teach a course in Youth Build, my organization, called Stress for Success. Everybody identifies with stress. They have stress. That's for me. And what I do is I've adapted the Four Noble Truths. I say stress exists. Stress exists. The source of stress is in the mind. We can recover from stress. And then I lay out 8 ways to do it. Now, it's not the same, but it's, expanding our capacity to handle stress in healthy ways. Stress is a part of life. So, how do we expand our capacity emotionally, intellectually, physically, etc.? And we go through exercise. And in that context, I teach meditation. I teach yoga. I teach deep listening. All kinds of practices. So if we can find the language and the approach that sort of takes people where their pain is, where they can hear it, and then once you get them in the room, you can work with them. And if you have the opportunity to work over time, you can actually get them away from the instrumental tool use, and walking improves health for older people, to the underneath that. I don't know how many of you know much about Nichiren Buddhism, the Soka Gakkai community. They're very good. They're the most diverse, racially and culturally and class diverse movement, at least in the United States. I've gone to their meetings, and it's a rainbow of people and ages and class backgrounds, a lot of working class people, policemen, stuff like that. So I asked, well, how do you, they said, well, we work with people's desires. People want things, and so people, they want a new car. And so they chant. These are the people who chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. They chant for their car. And maybe they get it, maybe they don't. But the chanting itself works on people. It begins to, and then around the chanting there are different teachings, and there's community that they're building, and there's support. And so people are gradually building Sangha together. They have a Sangha practice, not exactly like ours, from what I understand. But then they get the new car, and then say, what do you want now? Chant for that. Well, you can see where this leads, right? When you get everything you think you need materially, then they're going to turn inwards. And, I don't really know in depth the practice. I'm not recommending it to you all. But I just think that there are many ways to think about how to first engage people, and then if you keep the bigger picture, the North Star, in your view, you can gradually move people from where they are. You meet people where they are. I work with young people from low-income communities. They can't afford to come here. They don't have cars to come here. They don't like vegetarian food. This is not their thing. But they're hungry for this practice. And so I teach it where they are, in their programs, in their community centers. And the more that I think we can learn ourselves how to do that, go beyond our own comfort zone, to meet people where they are, they're open to the practice. They really are. About a month ago, we had a national conference of our young leaders in Washington, D.C., and I teamed up with a Vipassana teacher from the Goenka tradition, and African-American man, and we taught a group of Youth Build students. We had only had about 3 hours with them, but we did basic meditation, and I did the eating, the raisin meditation. And they said, "Wow, I never tasted a raisin before. Wow, that's great." We did basic walking meditation. And they were just so cool and chill at the end. I mean, they just said, "Wow, I could really use this." So, and we're thinking about how to follow up with that. But the main point here, I think you're hearing, is that how can we be, if we want to take a quote into the world is quite varied, quite diverse. Let's try to be diverse in the way that we offer, the way that we communicate. And that's a skill. We develop it over time. I've made lots of mistakes trying to do this inappropriately, but I've learned from it. And I just encourage you to be fearless, out of the comfort zone, and try to talk to people where they are. We're not converting them to our practice. We're using the basics of our practice to meet them where they are and help them take the next step. It's a gradual, slow process for lots of people. Young people from low-income backgrounds that I work with, there's no safe place to meditate in their communities, except maybe a bathroom. It's a different thing. They need basic skills, basic love, basic food, basic shelter. One counselor in Youth Build said, and some of you work with young people, this is a familiar phrase, they don't want to know, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. So the caring, the love comes first. And love isn't, would you like to meditate with me? It's like, what do you need? Where are you? How can I help? Is there a way that I can be of service? The world is waiting for this practice. The world is eager for the practice, whether they know it or not. And many of the people that I met in Oxford, I've been there 8 years to this conference, so I've made good friends. One man is he's got a university in South Africa, in Cape Town, that's entirely based on transcendental meditation. All the students meditate in the morning. He says the scores go up, so he's able to produce the results that funders need, because that's a concern in the real world. If you want to take this out, sometimes it requires some funding. So you have to talk that language. But we know if you can it's like getting in the door is one step. Another man is, he works with, it was a New York Times Week in Review article about it last week. Apopo, the hero rats. Bart Wiegens is a Zen priest from Belgium. He started this program of training large African rats to sniff out landmines. In the colonial wars, a lot of landmines were left over. And so these rats go out. So he's teaching, he has a zendo in Zimbabwe. He's teaching the people that he works with meditation. So those are some examples of ways that I think we can think about how to adapt our practice to the wider world. Have at it.
Dear Thai, dear brothers and sisters in the Dharma, I was in the Dharma talk when Brother Prabhu shared about, he afraid that the monastic might not change. So I was kind of surprised. When Thai falls ill and a couple of us from Blue Cliff Monastery came to visit him, and at first we thought everyone's gonna look very depressed and sad and down, but it's the opposite. The community tend to draw together, and we felt closer to each other, and the energy of practice is becoming even stronger. I remember especially like in certain hamlets where some, monastics might not show up for sitting, but they end up, just go for sitting very regularly. And it's not like anyone's forcing them to do it. They just felt like they want to do it. So in a way that we feel that we Thais as a corn tree that is, giving all its life and fruits. He has done his best, so now the young one are continuing. So we all felt that, and it's like Thai was talking about his different bodies the other day, a couple weeks ago, in his Dharma talk that we probably see a long time ago. And he said that, he had all these bodies, like the Buddhas have different transformation body. But really, his continuation bodies all come together in Plum Village. I was amazed to see that many monastics and OI friends and other lay friends who we haven't met who we haven't seen again for many years, all come together in order to support the energy of the Sangha in Plum Village because of Thai's absent. And every day the Dharma teachers, monastics, rotate to give a talk. And everyone was so moved to hear each talk. So I felt like I don't see changes, but I see continuation. And I think that is important. Whether we can continue the practice, we can continue Thai, that's the most important. If we know how to practice, if we know how to live in harmony, if we know how to share the Dharma, then we can be very creative. But that doesn't need to be sudden changes. Of course, when Thai is in that situation, monastics, and we have a lot of changes. We have to look at the whole picture. We have to be prepared in terms of paperwork and in terms of the setting up of each monastery and finance and everything. But the changes, I see that it's happened very subtle. You don't see it, but there are changes. I felt like before Thai student, we seem to be kind of, for me, I feel like lazy a little bit sometimes, and a little bit, just stand back, step back and not going forward to do things. But when Thai is in that situation, I felt that people were stepping out of their comfort zone and taking responsibilities. So I just see that as that picture of continuing and of keeping the practice going and keeping our bodhicitta alive. But at least for Blue Cliff, we have a lot of changes because we were moving people in different places and new brothers and sisters were coming. So there's a lot of changes. but in my heart, I just feel like as long as, when we live with each other, we have enough love, enough harmony, we practice together, and we don't act as a single cell organism, we don't act as an individual. Sometimes we live in a community and we expect the community to change, but then it's more like expectation than wanting changes, because we're not satisfied with certain way the Sangha is. So maybe that's why we yearn for the changes. So I feel like if there's enough communication, enough love and understanding, then whatever we want to do together, we can do. Because our teacher also shared that, I trust all of you, my children, and my continuation. I trust whatever you do. And actually, Thầy has prepared himself several years before he actually gone into this state. Prepare his student. He said, "Are you ready?" I'm just gonna, step back a little bit. But then we keep being a little bit lazy in a way. It's like the story of in the Avatamsaka Sutra, where the children of the doctor, of the medicine man, refused to take medicines because their father is still around. So when the father pretend that he left, he gone to another place and he died, he sent that news, and so his children start to take the medicines. So I felt like Thầy have done that a long time ago, but because he's still around, we kind of lay off. So when it really happened, then everyone just kind of go forward. So I see it's very beautiful that what we're doing now, and this retreat is a proof for that. All the monastic and Dharma teachers, lay OI, and all the OIs and aspirants, you come together, and this retreat themes is just a perfect answer for that too. Thank you.
Fearlessness. Dear respected Thai, dear brothers and sisters, I would like to ask Janet, is Janet still here? No? Oh yeah, to repeat your question? No trying, okay. I think I'm going to combine a couple different questions, just because that's how my mind works. You get a little ringside seat to the process here. First of all, I think that the last thing we need to be afraid of is that things won't change. That's impossible. So we can set that one aside in developing our fearlessness. I find in my own practice that the no trying, Thai has been such a beautiful guide for that. when he talks about effortlessness, that we don't have to push. I remember my very first retreat was at the Omega Institute, I think, and there was a woman that came for questions and answers, and she said, oh, Ty, she said, no matter what I do, she said, I get more and more anxious if I focus on my breath. Whenever I focus on my breath, I just get anxious about my breath. He said, well, is there anything you do when you can enjoy breathing? And she thought about it, and she said, well, I think maybe when I'm in the bathtub or if I'm swimming. And he said, well, if I were you, I'd never get out of the bathtub. How beautiful is that? It's very deep teaching. And this is how I've always looked at my practice, is that, like Sister Yue was describing, it's discernment between what's being lazy and what's efforting to try to develop that awareness. But I always call my practice gentle diligence over time. That it's doing my best, and the question was raised about if every second of every day I'm mindful. The answer is absolutely not. I thought I was going to write the sequel to Ty's book and call it The Miracle of Mindlessness, because I find so frequently I slide. But I just find that if I can just pay attention minute to minute to minute as much as I can, and just notice when strong emotions arise, when I'm having a reaction to something that somebody said or somebody did, anything like that, all the energy that's playing through me, if I can just be aware of what that is when it's happening. And then I might not be in a position at that moment to sit down and attend to it, but I make note of it. So when I am in a position to sit down and attend to it, I can. And I find that just by very gently over time, trying my best to pay attention, embracing really difficult emotions, doing my best to, I do a lot of healing the past in the present moment. I have a lot of healing that needed to be done and still does. So I do that practice probably every day. I find when I facilitate beginning anew for people, it's very frequently their children that are in a fight with somebody else. We get two children in a fight. And they really need to do lots of healing in the past. So I try my best to attend to all of that. And what I find is that there's no perceptible change until something happens. There'll be a crisis or something will happen. And it's not even an option that I would react the way I did 10 years ago. And then I think, oh, there's been some transformation happening. But that's what I see as not trying. I find that a militaristic approach to meditation doesn't work for me. I find that that's lacking in compassion for myself. And I needed a lot of compassion. So, and I find every single one of our practices, it's like, I can remember I grew up in a situation where there was a lot of judgment and criticism. And the first time I was able to do a sitting meditation and have my mind just be crazy and not criticize myself and simply just go, oh, my mind is just being a mind. I felt this huge heart opening. It was like having nothing but understanding for myself. But the not having the need to judge or criticize had been set aside. So I think every single one of our practices is an opportunity. I think in terms of fearlessness, that's just another one of the strong emotions that arise. And like I said, I've been really trying my best to identify it, to call it what it is. Look deeply at the emotions I have. If I feel anxious about something, if I feel angry about something, if I'm hurt by something, etc., if I look deeply, oftentimes I come to fear. And when I sit with the fear, what I usually find out is that, again, oftentimes it goes back to childhood, that it has nothing to do with being an adult. You know, it's like, oh, I'm afraid I'll be embarrassed. Oh, I'm afraid that, this will happen, that will happen. And I think, I've been embarrassed before. I've lived through it, that's nothing. This is like crazy. And, what else would you be? Oh, afraid of maybe something not going well. Been there and done that. And, a lot of times in my experience, I guess maybe it has to do with being old, but in my experience, that's one of the few advantages there are to being old. But I find that when I can see that so many times in my life, things did not work out the way I wanted them to, and it was a total blessing that they didn't. And so that's where that, are you sure? I have no idea what the best thing is. I find that the more I practice, the fewer times I tell anybody what to do. I have no idea what anybody should do. I really trust they have inner wisdom of their own, and they're going to figure it out. I think that what I see is, like Ty said, to sit with the 5 remembrances every day, to just get very, very comfortable with what is. We're all going to die. People come up to me and go, oh, it's horrible, terrible, awful, you have a terminal illness. And I say, yes, it's a terrible thing, you do too. We all do. It's just what is. None of us are going to be here forever. And when we can, the Buddha said the biggest illness among humans is our unwillingness to accept what is, and that is what is. So more and more often, when I can just simply look at something and say, yep, that's what is, get with the program. If that's what is, how do I respond well? How do I respond skillfully to that? And like I said yesterday, the way that I've chosen is to look at everything from a place of a student. What do I have to learn? What can this teach me? How can this help me to transform my unskillful states of mind? And to enjoy. I'm very good at enjoying life. And that brings me to one of the other questions. How do we share the practice? I think that, again, Ty is such a beautiful teacher in that way, that he embodies the practice. That's how he teaches the practice. Oftentimes I don't remember what his words were, but I remember the energy that he transmitted. And I think that that's more powerful than anything else. People know if I love them. They know if I don't. People know if I'm angry. They know if I'm not. We don't get away with anything. And so to transform our own consciousness, to be able to keep ourselves in a state of peace and happiness, to me, that's the most powerful thing. I remember when John brought up walking meditation, or somebody brought up walking meditation, and I think that to share walking meditation with somebody, my first retreat, I had had a brain injury. My brain wasn't working at all, and I had a bunch of ruptured discs and things like that. So I was in a lot of pain, and the doctor had said, you should walk every day, try to walk every day. So I'd walk every day, and I would gripe every step of the way. Every step of the way. I would be whining. I would be feeling sorry for myself. This is horrible, terrible. I can't believe this happened. Why me? My life is ruined. Yada, da, da, da. By the time I got to the end of the walk, I felt like I got hit by a car all over again. I felt horrible. I went to my first retreat, and Ty is introducing walking meditation. And I still remember it so vividly because as a brain-injured person, I had no ability to intellectualize anything. So everything was very concrete. It's just like, okay, you say this, that's what I do. So I was just following directions at my retreat. And I had never done anything like that before. So he said, before we went for the walk, he said, if you go for a walk, he said, you can maintain the awareness of what a miracle it is to be able to walk. To be able to walk on this earth is an incredible miracle. That the trees are exhaling what you inhale. You exhale what the trees inhale. The whole design of everything is just amazing. So, he said, when we walk with that awareness, he said, we're taking a step into the kingdom of heaven. Never a day goes by that I don't walk in the kingdom of heaven. So even in my state of not being able to think, it registered that what I knew was where I choose to place my mind totally determines my perception of everything. That was the teaching of walking meditation. So if somebody wants to do walking meditation for stress reduction, I think that's a lovely thing. I think that if you introduce walking meditation, like Thai does, it's a little bit more than just reducing stress. I think it's a deep teaching on interbeing. So I think it depends on how we go about. There are all kinds of infinite possibilities. And for me, I just feel like every single thing that happens every day is trying to teach me something. And I've been a very slow learner. I am not proud to report. I'm just amazed sometimes at how long it's taken. All of a sudden, I'll have this realization, go, wow. And I feel like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, like, oh, it's been there all along. 65 years old, and it's been there the whole time. But I figure better late than never. I hope that that's addressed some of the questions. Yeah, I think in terms of fear, again, I think that, like I said yesterday too, also to really make choices about where I place my mind. Do I ruminate on what I'm afraid of? Do I spend time making up horror stories about what could possibly happen and never does? It's a waste of time. And I'm very, very, very sensitive to wasting time. So that really helps quite a lot, because it's like I said yesterday, every minute I spend in fear and speculation is wasted. It has absolutely no purpose. It serves no purpose. Even if there's a legitimate fear, for me to sit around feeling afraid of whatever it is that's happening is a waste of my time. It doesn't do any good. It doesn't, it's not effective in dealing with whatever the problem is. Does that make sense? So hopefully we'll develop our fearlessness. And I feel like every single one of us was put on this earth with gifts. And our job is to manifest every one of them fully, totally, as much as we possibly can. And we get conditioned, so we're afraid to do that. We just get ourselves twisted into pretzels. We keep our light under a bushel. We have all these ideas and stories about ourselves that I'm not capable of that, I don't do that, I'm this kind of person, I'm not that kind of person, yeah, da, 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 da. And pretty soon you're living in this little tiny box and feeling very cramped. And I really feel that in our practice, the beauty of it is the spaciousness and creativity that happens. That when we can free ourselves up minute to minute to minute to minute, and question that. Are you sure that you're not good at that? Are you sure that that's not who you are? Are you sure? Ty tells that beautiful story about waking up in the morning and asking, who are you? He talks about the guy who came up to him about a book that he wrote, and he said, I have a bone to pick with you about that book. And Ty smiled and said, I wrote the book 30 years ago. I didn't even remember, what I was writing. And he said, but I turned to the man and I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not the same person that wrote that book. Right? And to remember that. I do that with my husband. I get up in the morning, who is this person? Rather than take it for granted that he doesn't need to say anything to me, I know what he's going to say. All that we generally can get in the habit of doing. To really develop, and it develops our curiosity about everything. We can go through life really showing up and being curious and enjoying things. What can I say? It's a lot of fun.
So, dear Thầy, dear friends, I think actually any member of the panel is capable of answer all the questions. But I think I'd like to try to answer question number 2 and number 1, having to do with some monastic angle, because what have you seen, some of the change in the community lately? Are you aware of it? How we can support the monastic Sangha, the lay Dharma teacher, and the fourfold Sangha? I think some of the change you already see some from physical point of view. We used to practice non-attachment very vividly. By that, in the monks and nuns in each center got turned around very fast. Every 2 or 3 years they go somewhere. And the problem is there are no continuation of knowledge of how to hold the center. And just an example, we have a meeting with a new bookkeeper, and she asked us, where's the deed of the purchase of property? And no, everyone was looking at me. And I say, I think I saw that, I will find it, you know. And those practical questions that sometimes, the other reality is having to do with the visa problem. It used to be a lot easier for any monastic to go to any center and stay long term. We recently have 8 monks and 5 nuns from Prajna, Vietnam, and now their visa expiring. So now they have to go out of the US, and we try to get some European brother sister to come, but we did in a rush, and they only have a tourist visa. They didn't have a religious visa, so eventually they have to go back to their home country. So I think the trend probably going to be each center in each continent will try to hold more. So like European may have tendency to stay more in Europe, and the American citizen probably more in America, and the Vietnamese, if they can get sponsors to come, they will come. Otherwise, they help Thailand or Vietnam and so on. We have like a big project with Asia things, and also the German center, which is a big one, so they can help. So that's a little bit, there's less movement. Of course, we still encourage when the monks and nuns get tired, they got the chance to get some fresh air, like 3 months in Plum Village or 6 months Plum Village or something like that, you know. I think what can the lay community help with the monastic? I think that's a good question. I think maybe from Thai point of view, it's very easy. You have to practice with mindful step and mindful breath, and your inside, your teacher will know what to say to you. But that's a very abstract. I think not all of us try to do it all the time. I think what I can say from the monastic point of view is we live together, we practice together, so we know each other's strength and weakness. So when we assign or we trust somebody to take care of something, we already know the strength and weakness of the person. An OI member or lay Dharma teacher who come once a year to Blue Cliff might not know enough. So we don't know. It's not like you probably have very good practice at home, and you help your community at home, and you give wonderful Dharma talk. But unless we know how you handle different situations, often when we have a monastic meeting, we're reluctant to kind of assign unless we know the person well. And probably you don't have to be a Dharma teacher. We have a couple intern here who stay for the whole year or 6 months. And even though they might not have a long practice, but because they live in community, they know the daily in and out rotation and things like that. It's easier for us to assign them because we know that their strength and weakness. Like, for example, this morning when we recite the 14 mindfulness training, there are at least 100 people who can read it, but we assign somebody who are intern, I believe, from the voice, I think, suspect, because it's a lot easier. We know that they are capable of handling that. And I think it's wonderful for the OI retreat now. We have a committee organizing, and we have many people like Marty Soul, Joanne Friday, and John Bell who get involved in the process, organizing. Jean and Samuel is one of those who really come, and she was organizing very closely with the monastic. But often I share my Dharma discussion. I think when you come and you ask to come to the kitchen, you say, what can I help? And I think that say that you don't have a presence of mind, you don't have alertness. Because usually when I go in the kitchen, I look around for 3 minutes and I know exactly what to do, what not to do. Because we are in the rotation team, we hold the cooking, we know exactly where the pots and pans are, we know where to get the knife, we go how thing. So, and it's more difficult to try to explain everything from scratch. So I think when you want to help, you need to be very observant. So mindfulness doesn't mean that you just love your breath and your step, but you have to be aware